All right.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the webinar on Family Peer Support Services. I hope everybody in Long Island is doing well. We're going to wait a couple minutes for other people to get on the call. If you have the ability to call in using the phone number, we'd ask you to do that because it'll make it easier for everyone to just talk to each other rather than just using the chat. You can listen via your computer, but you can't actually talk. So if you can call in, that's great, and we'll unmute the phones in a minute. If you need the phone number, if you look above the elephant, there's a tab called Event Info, and if you click on that, it'll show you the phone number for calling in. And we'll be back with you in just a minute. Hi, everybody. This is Ann Kuppinger, and I am with the Community Technical Assistance Center, and I'm really excited to be talking with you today. My role at CTAC is to do a number of different things, but one of them is to coordinate CTAC's work with all the family support programs. So this is a really important opportunity for us to have a chance to hear from you about how you're viewing things and what kind of help would be helpful. And I want to let my co-presenter introduce herself as well.
Good morning, everyone. This is Geraldine Jerry Burton, and I'm also with the Community Technical Assistance Center along with Ann, and we are working together to make sure that, as Ann said, that we are able to meet your needs doing technical assistance with the transition that is going to be going forth very soon. So thank you so much for taking the time to be with us this morning. We really, really appreciate it.
I want to go over a couple of technical things so that you understand how this webinar format works. You'll notice there are two ways for you to participate. One is for you to call in using your phone, and if you are able to do that, the phone number can be found under the tab above the elephant that's called Event Info. That will show you a phone number that you can use to call in. That'll allow us to talk. We actually have a good-sized group this morning, so I think we can really have some good discussion if you're able to call in. If you're not able to call in, you can communicate with us through the chat function. And the way you get to the chat is if you look over to the right-hand side of your screen is a blue bubble, and you click on that, and it'll open up a chat box down below. And then there's a drop-down menu where in the chat box where it'll say Send To. And what you want to do is send it to all participants. That way, if you chat to all participants, other people will be able to see your comments. And what we'll do in case that not everybody's actually on the webinar is we'll try to read out as many of the chat comments as possible. But in general, we find it works best if you just talk. And that way we can have an actual conversation. The other thing we would ask you to do, since we're going to leave all the phone lines open, is to mute your phone on your end if you're not talking, and that way it'll just be quieter for everyone. And whatever you do, don't put us on hold, because then we get to enjoy your hold music. It makes it a little hard to talk. So the only other thing I want to do before we really get started is to let you know that there are some other folks at CTAC who are supporting this work, and some of them may be on the call today. Caradina Sale, Lydia Franco, Yvette Kelly, and Brianna Gonzalez, who is helping us to actually manage this webinar. So eventually you'll meet all of those people, and I just want you to know that they're also, you know, working with us on all of this work with CTAC. So without further ado, I would like to ask the people who are on the phone to introduce themselves. And I am going to call on you because I can actually see your name. Oh, I can't see everyone's name, so I'll call on a few people and then we'll go from there. And Eileen, you happen to be first on my list. So can you introduce yourself?
Morning. Yep, It's Eileen Cadlitz from Long Island Families Together.
Thanks. And Jean?
Hi, I'm Jean McGough, Regional Parent Advisor for the Long Island region.
And Susan?
Hi, I'm Susan Berger, and I'm the Director of Family Peer Advocate Credentialing and Workforce Development at Families Together in New York State, and I'm from Long Island, so I think most of you know me.
Thanks. And Yvonne?
Hi, I'm Yvonne Novi-Cutler. I'm a Family Peer Advocate over at North Shore Child and Family Guidance Center, and I'm also with my supervisor, Lee Holtzman.
I'm so glad that you got on, Yvonne and Lee.
Thank you. So are we.
Sometimes that registration process is a little difficult to navigate. Hopefully, with practice, it'll get easier. So, and Heather Lane?
Hi, this is Heather Lane. I'm with the Office of Mental Health, and I am the Family and Youth Peer Coordinator.
And now we have some mystery callers. So anyone else that's on the phone, I see that you're there, but I can't see your names. So can you introduce yourself? If you're talking, you're on mute. If you can unmute yourself and introduce yourselves, that would be great. All right. Well, hopefully, as we move through the conversation, you'll participate. And if you want to chat in your name, if you're not able to call in, then you know, we'll be able to help you participate. So I think from there, we'll let Jerry take it away. We're going to talk to you a little bit, give you an overview of today's webinar, and then we're going to hopefully have lots of discussion. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Ann. So again, welcome to everyone, and we really are grateful to you taking the time to be involved in this webinar. So as you can see, our agenda for the next hour and a half, if it goes that long, we have welcome and introductions, which we just did, and we will be doing an overview of CTAC and MCTAC. We will discuss challenges and opportunities for FPSS. We have some discussion questions. We will also talk about next steps, and we will do a Q&A. But most importantly, we want to hear from you. That's what's really, really important in order for us to move forward in this transition process. Okay. So we have a poll question. Our first poll question is, which best describes your employer? So if you can see on the right-hand side, it has your choices. Pick one, and then we will wait and see what the outcome of the poll question is. And your answers will be recorded. And it may take some time, so please be patient. All right. All right, we should be having our answers come up in a few minutes. I just want to say, you know, here in New York, we are very fortunate to have many different types of family peer support programs. And at CTAC, we are excited about all of this work. And each region has a different makeup of family peer support programs with a mix of independent family support service programs. And the programs sometimes are housed within an agency that provides many services, and we have embedded advocates working in hospitals, residential treatment facilities, and CRs, clinics, and waiver programs. All right, so here's the results of our poll. Okay, so, we have one children's mental health provider agency, and we had two organizational type, and we had 4 who did not answer. So let's see. Whoever responded by saying other organization types, could you type in, or what it is, the organization is, what type of organization it is, if at all possible? Or either you can just unmute yourself and tell us.
Hi, Geraldine. It's Eileen from LIFT. We're a family-run organization. I have the credential, but we don't provide advocates at the moment. So that's why I put other community organization.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Kind of like in the middle, because we're family-run, but we're not providing advocates at the moment.
Absolutely. So. All right. Okay.
And this is Jean, and I work for both OMH Field Office and Families Together New York State. So, that's kind of an in-between identity, so I did put other.
Okay, great. Just wanted to be clear. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. This is Susan Berger. I work for Families Together in New York State, so that's a statewide family-run advocacy organization, and we also don't provide direct service, although we do have the parent advisors as part of our staff. So we're kind of in the middle also, so I put other.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. So moving forward, these are our partners that are involved with CTAC and MCTAC. And as you can see, we're partnering with a number of organizations to provide you with the best consultation and technical assistance. And our staff, as well as all these partners, believe in the importance of relevance of peer services, including family peer support services. But most importantly, our most important partner is, of course, you. Very, very, very important. And all of this change feels a bit like this, doesn't it? I mean, this picture, I think, says it all. But what makes this work? Leadership, teamwork, looking downstream, balance, breathing, helpful guides, and hard work. And so CTAC and MCTAC look forward to providing you with timely, helpful information to help you navigate your own path to success. Again, this is a partnership. This is not, just our group telling you what to do. We have to work together collaboratively and in partnership to make this move forward in a most positive and strength-based way. So the Managed Care Technical Assistance Center, what is MCTAC? And as you can see, MCTAC is partnering with OASIS and OMH to provide foundational information to prepare providers for managed care, support and capacity building for providers in the form of tools, group consultation, informational training, assessment measures, and information and training on the critical domains necessary for managed care readiness. And we will aggregate feedback to providers and state authorities as well. And as you can see, the goal, providing training and intensive support on quality improvement strategies, including business, organizational, and clinical practices to achieve, and this is the main thing, the overall goal of preparing and assisting providers with the transition to Medicaid managed care. Very important. Okay. So, Community Technical Assistance Center, CTAC. CTAC, along with the Managed Care Technical Assistance Center, will provide technical assistance for all children's mental health programs, including, but not limited to, RTFs, CRs, day treatment, home and community-based waiver programs, clinics, and family support in preparation for the transition to 2017 to the Children's Medicaid Managed Care Redesign Plan. You will also have access to both CTAC and MCTAC offerings, and these two technical assistance centers work very closely together. This year, CTAC will begin offering a variety of trainings in line with the vision of providing the right services at the right time in the right amount. Offerings will focus on managed care readiness and the provision of family-centered, trauma-informed, and community-based services in all sectors from residential programs through to peer support programs. And I'm not sure if you noticed or not, I've said it quite a few times about focusing on managed care readiness. And that's really, really important because there is a lot of confusion about that, and so we want to make sure that people know and are ready for the transition. So what can you do to make the most of CTAC and MCTAC support? It's just the things that you can do. This is definitely a group project in order to be successful. Networking within and outside of the community for family peer support services providers is extremely important for information and ideas. If you are a small provider, involve and possibly expand your board. Network with other small providers in your region. Look for the right expertise to complement yours. Your organizations, especially if it does not currently bill Medicaid, will have some important decisions to make about how to develop or partner with others to have the infrastructure needed to bill Medicaid. MCTAC can help you to understand what is needed so you can make the best choices for your agency and the people it serves. If you are a FPSS program within a larger provider agency, be smart about how to manage your program and look for opportunities to be at the table as the larger agency is planning for this transition, and that's extremely important. If you have been operating largely as satellite, look for ways you can partner and add value to the other services provided by your agency. So we have another poll question for you. Poll question number 2. CTAC and MCTAC offer webinars, online tools, resources, in-person events, learning communities, office hours, and training. How would you describe your involvement in these offerings so far? So if you can just take the time and answer that, we greatly appreciate it. So please let us know whether you have participated in a CTAC event in the past. So what we have done in the past is we have learning communities, and in-person events are usually open to providers of all types, adult, child, and a wide range of professionals, all working together toward the same goal of improved outcomes for children and families. When a webinar or a workshop is announced, we try to provide you with some guidance as to who the target audience is so you can make a determination about what will be most helpful. Having said that, much of the programming for CTAC and MCTAC cut across audiences, so take a broad view of what might be relevant. We encourage you to sign up for the listservs and think about how the CTAC and MCTAC programming can fit into your organization's professional development program. Okay, so we have results, yes. So let's see. We have one. This is the first time I have participated. Very good. I have participated in 1 or 2 CTAC. That's 1 person. I have participated in 3 or more. 2 people. And I have participated in many CTAC, MCTAC, 1 person, and no answer from 2 people. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So again, we want to encourage you to sign up for the CTAC and MCTAC listservs, and again, think about how these offerings can fit into your organizational professional development program. Thank you so much for your participation. All right. So I'm going to turn the ball over to Ann at this time. Ann?
Oh, hi. I'm talking to you all on mute. that was a little background on what CTAC and MCTAC can do, and I think it's important for people to understand that CTAC and MCTAC work really closely in partnership with one another, with MCTAC having a little bit more focus on readiness for managed care, and CTAC doing some of the same things but with a little bit more of a programmatic focus. But we're working closely together, and with respect to family support, we really are interested in finding out what your most sort of pressing issues and concerns are so that we can make sure we build that kind of technical assistance into the work that we're doing. The next couple slides really look at the overall goals for the children's system redesign and the transition to Medicaid managed care. And I wanted to include these slides because when you look at this, you'll see a lot that's very consistent with the goals and mission of family support. So identifying needs early, helping children stay at home with the right supports and services, being trauma-informed, and I would add family-driven, and helping the child be successful in the community. And for children, that means helping with schools and also helping them find recreational outlets and helping their families have those natural supports in the community, and preventing longer-term need for higher-end services. So I think that what's great about this redesign is that there is a real emphasis being placed on exactly the kinds of things that you've been promoting for a long time. When the state is getting ready to submit, they're in the process right now of submitting an amendment to the Center for Medicaid Services that will change some of the state plan services, will add some services to the state plan Medicaid services. There are 6 new services, and these services, because of where they're located in the plan, have fairly broad access. So unlike a service where you have to be a child in significant need, these services will really just require a determination of medical necessity, which for family peer support services will be set so that you can actually offer this service to families who, aren't, too far along their journey yet. We still don't know exactly what the rules are going to look like for that, but I think what's great about this is that it will allow for broad access to family peer support services, at least for families who are Medicaid eligible. And I know, and we're going to talk in a minute about, I know some of you have concerns about access for families who don't have Medicaid eligibility. So I wanted to at least let you know that some of the questions that you have brought up, you collectively, the family peer support providers across the state have brought up, are on our radar. And as I go through these, we're not really going to get into all of the answers, although we might have a little bit of time later on to have some discussion about some of these. But I want you to think about what other really important burning questions you have or concerns that you have that we can add to our list of things to be thinking about. So again, the first one, will current levels of state aid be maintained? We don't know yet, but we know that those of you who get 1650 funding are concerned about still being able to provide services for families who aren't Medicaid eligible. What will rates and the rate structure look like? Again, that's information that will be forthcoming. And we will have to take a look at that and decide what implications those rates and rate structures have for how you do work and what your program funding looks like. Will we have enough business to sustain our program? Those of you who provide contract services for waiver talk a lot about uneven need for your services, which makes it hard for you to staff and hard for you to develop a budget. What will medical necessity look like? So for services that are paid for by Medicaid, some determination has to be made that the child meets the criteria to receive that service. We're really hoping to establish that at a pretty low level for family support, but the details of that still haven't been clarified yet. How will family peer support services have to adapt their approach to managed care? So it's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to. You'll be given authorization to do a certain amount of work. And it may be that for different kinds of kids and families, you have different amounts of time that you're able to work with that family. So you may find that you have to adapt your approach to match the way that services are authorized. And you may very well be changing where and how you provide services and to whom, including who your referral sources might be. There are questions about your relationship with managed care organizations and will they be interested in contracting with you as a smaller provider. And if you're a program like North Shore that's a family support program that operates within a larger provider organization, you have a different set of questions, but they will have to do with how you work within your agency to both bill for family support services and make sure that those services are working in concert with the other work that the agency is doing as a whole. If you're a program that's a small program, you're going to have to be thinking about whether you have the infrastructure in place to be able to be a Medicaid services provider, or whether you need to collaborate with other small providers or possibly become a program of a larger provider organization. We're not at CTAC taking a position on what you should do, but we hope to be able to provide you with the information that you need and the support that you need to make a decision that allows you and the people that you work with to continue to provide a service that is valuable and relevant to families. And finally, there are lots of issues around staff readiness to handle the documentation associated with Medicaid, both writing goals and participating in service plan development and also case notes and all of the other lovely paperwork that goes along with being a Medicaid provider. So I want to just, the phone lines are open and the chat box is up, and I want to hear from those of you on the phone if there are any other things that really stand out in your mind as questions around this transition to managed care that you have on your mind.
Hi, this is Jean. My question is about the families who receive the services. Like families right now who are receiving family peer support services, are they really, like, at what point do they need to know that this whole system is changing, and how is it going to really affect them? Is there a way of making the services be seamless so that maybe the parents, I mean, of course, just in the goal of transparency, of course, they should know, but as far as how they are receiving services,
right.
What do they need to know at this point, and at what point do they need to know everything? And what is everything?
I think this is a really excellent question, Jean, and I think that it came up, I thought of it a while ago, and it kind of fell off my radar, and it came up in the last phone call, too. How can CTAC be helpful? First of all, we can help you understand the changes that are happening so that at least, you have that information so that when families come to you with questions, you can help them answer those questions. But is there a way for us to develop some tools, some, tip sheets, information even, or even just really good frequently asked questions documents that are available to advocates, and some of which will have to be kind of regionally specific to help. But I think that this is, there are many questions ranging from, how do I access health insurance on the exchange, for example, which isn't something that we're really paying a lot of attention to at CTAC, but we could certainly help get that information to you, to what if I am involved in a waiver program and how does that affect me as things transition to health homes? And, how will planning involve families and what should people expect? I think there are lots of really good questions associated with that. I mean, right now, I think that the biggest thing is that some families will be transitioning to health home service coordination in October. For many families, that will not really be visible to them. There may be some, I assume, different paperwork and planning processes, but their current care coordinator may become their health home care coordinator, but for some people it may require them to shift to a new care coordinator. And that's something that hopefully we can, we're not really integrally involved in that health home transition piece at CTAC, but I think we can find out some information about what that's going to look like. But it will depend on where there's a phase-in transition to health homes. And that's the first thing that people are going to see. But I think it's a good point, and I think it's something that we need to be thinking about.
Yeah, this is Eileen. I'd like to just piggyback a little bit in on that. Thank you, Jean, for highlighting that. We meet with, not me personally, but a lot of the groups have support groups, and I'm just thinking of the Common Core disaster and how this could possibly be something akin to that, not on the same large scale, if we don't prepare families. I spoke with a family this week, just as an example, that they were getting therapy services at one of the Long Island clinics that was taken over by another clinic, and they had a pretty good run with the prior clinic, and the new one, they were late 3 times. And if you know anything about children's mental health and you're trying to get your youth to your appointments, sometimes things happen. So they had 3 appointments where they were late. They were dropped. Now, and she's like, now they're high and dry. She still has a teenage daughter with mental health needs, and she was in a clinic, and there's long wait lists to get into clinics now, and the clinic she had dropped her. So that's something unforeseen, who knew it would happen, who knew they had that type of policy. So I'm thinking tip sheets would be wonderful. I'm thinking of parent advocates being able to start to do a rollout, or at least some heads-up prep at support groups. And if we had 1 or 2, documents, like you said, frequently asked questions, just some basic definitions and guidelines, I think it would be great, because this if something happens and you're suddenly high and dry or put on a wait list, you know how disastrous that can be to a family.
Yeah,
and we don't have
the other thing I'm thinking, the other thing I'm thinking as you're talking is that, we have a little time now that the transition, health homes are going to be starting in October, and, I have a lot of questions about how that's going to go, and I need to start to ask those questions so that I can begin to think about the implications for the families and family support. And it's the kind of thing that you may want to look at regionally too, because it's going to look a little bit different in each region. And that might really best be accomplished through some conversations with whoever in the field office is primarily responsible for being kind of the point person around health home implementation. But I think that what I'm thinking is that, especially when we come to January 2017, for those of you in Long Island and then upstate later, we need to make sure that families, as we head into that transition, have advocates, so that they have someone that they can at least go to, because it's not going to be seamless. I think we can be fairly certain of that. The good news is that, theoretically at least, families will have access to new services that they haven't had access to before. Now, they need to know that so that they can be, sometimes you have to know what's available to be able to advocate to receive a new service. I think there will be issues around waiting lists still, because we have to have the providers to make those services available. And I don't know how that's all going to work, but the idea that we think about, making sure that families have someone kind of at their side through this process is important. And maybe an issue that we can take up with lots of providers. Say to the providers, this is coming. It'd be a really good idea for you to get your family at least to know where the family support is in their community so they can go there if they have questions. So other ideas, things that we should add to this list of questions? I'm going to move us along. We've got lots of other opportunity for input. So this really talks about some of the opportunities. I think there is the potential for family peer support services to grow, not just in terms of its use as we're accustomed to it, but also into new areas. We hear a lot of talk from primary care providers about, wouldn't it be great if we had a family advocate that we could connect families with if their child has behavioral health challenges. And now that there's a way to pay for it, I think it will open up some doors. You guys have been involved in the rollout of FANS. I think that we're going to be able to learn a little bit more about the impact of family support, and that's a really good thing for us as programs to be able to refine what we do, but also to justify what we do. I see this as a good time for us to invest in the leaders of family support programs and do some more work around leadership development and supervision. And, to work on partnerships with some of those other providers in the system. It's been a little rough in waiver, sometimes that partnership between the family advocates and the waiver programs, and I'm hoping that as we move into health homes that we can pay some attention to that. I think, there are some real challenges with especially smaller programs and transitioning them and trying to figure out how to keep them going with all of these changes. But hopefully we can get people to a place where they're settled, and then we have some more resources that will help them sustain themselves. The biggest challenge, I think, is to make sure that we keep sort of the spirit of family support in the middle of all of this technical change. I had a conversation with some people about that very issue the other day and how all providers are sort of losing the forest for the trees a little bit, and the trees are important. They're all the details of how do I make this work? How do I submit a bill? How is it going to work financially? What's the rate look like? But I think you guys can play a really important role in helping people focus on the fact that some of these changes, while they may be difficult at first, really could set us up for serving kids and families in a more preventive, community-based way. And I think it's important for people to keep that, goal in mind. We put this slide in here just because we found it amusing, Jerry and I, and you may be able to locate yourself somewhere on this continuum of emotions during this change process. We kind of thought that a lot of people were where this guy with the circle is, sort of like scratching their head and saying, how's this going to affect me? How's this going to affect the families that I work with? We're hoping, moving over to the red X, with providing you with some support and some opportunities to network with each other to prevent disillusionment. We have the experience over and over again of people being on a phone call, helping each other out by sharing information. So I think that if we can network people well and provide you with the right kind of support, we can help get your questions answered before they turn into disillusionment so that you can move forward and honestly help other people in your community move forward as well with these changes. So one of the things I'm really wanting to do is to make sure that in the name of networking that we share good ideas across the state. So I'm interested to hear, we have a small group today, but what's nice is we have two very different kinds of providers on the phone. And I want to hear from you if there are areas of expertise that you have, and don't be humble, that you feel would be helpful for us to know about, that we can learn about what you're doing to share with others. So you have any thoughts on that? Things that you think you do really well, or things you know about that you'd be willing to share with other people?
Hi, it's Eileen again.
Thanks, Eileen.
You're welcome. One thing that we're doing that's kind of an unreached people group, I like to say, is the adoptive community, both parents and youth. And we have a support group that we run. It's monthly at the moment, with the parent group and the youth group running at the same time, but in two different locations. Currently we're in Panera Bread, so the youth typically can separate into a back community room and the parents are in front. you know, more socializing, or the families come early and eat, and then the two groups separate. But we're doing a key curriculum with the youth, and we're doing ongoing with the parents in kind of an informal way, some parent enrichment on techniques for, you know, raising children with severe behaviors. So I think, you know, if anybody has a family that they're working with, or they, you know, they just want to brainstorm with me, or, you know, I can give resources. But we have a lot of youth on Long Island that have been adopted internationally, domestically, out of foster care, that are currently in, you know, receiving services. And one program I know of their 16 residents, at 1.8 were adopted. That's a pretty high number. So I think we have a little expertise and lived experience that we would be happy to share, and just highlight to other programs the need to reach out to this group.
Yeah. Yeah. What are there you know, particular issues that, you know, I'm sure there are many, but are there things that stand out to you as different, or that are particularly important to address with adoptive parents that? Or is it important for them to be together for some reason? Is it because of the nature of how their children came to be a part of their family that helps them be a part of their own support group rather than integrated in other groups?
I think they can benefit being integrated and also having this particular group, because there's a whole dimension of loss and rejection and attachment that, in addition to mental health issues, that are kind of particular to our children. Not saying that other children don't have attachment issues, or if there's been, you know, different types of trauma, but typically we have some unique trauma backgrounds with these youth, especially the ones that have been adopted internationally. And, you know, the behaviors, the resulting behaviors may be the same as, you know, the other non-adopted population of children that are struggling. But but that one little group, you know, all of those lived experiences of these children, that's something that we would not always want to share in a general group. You know, there's like a trust factor among the parents. Like I don't always want to tell people different things about my children's story, which a lot of parents feel also, but we have some pretty severe and significant aspects of our children's history. And in that way, I do think it's helpful. But I think being in a larger group could also be helpful, but I always, you know, caution parents about that piece of protecting the privacy of their youth, because the details are really, you know, we almost become not hardened to them, but we're, so, you know, they're shocking, though, and to just share with the general population. So I think there's a benefit, definitely, from separating them out. I do, as a, you know, and obviously as an adoptive parent myself. No, I think that, well, I mean, that's where that comes in. That lived experience as the leader of the group makes so much of a difference. Yvonne, I know you're on the phone, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I'm sure you're doing some awesome things up there at North Shore. Is there anything that really stands out as something that you're proud of in terms of the work that you're doing that we should know about?
Can you hear me now?
Now I can, yes.
Sorry, I teach common sense parenting on a very regular basis here, and very often parents that come and take the common sense parenting from wherever they come, they end up coming to a Monday night support group, and the Monday night support group really does help the kids socialize with other kids. We have the identified child and siblings in the same group, and you wouldn't necessarily know who was who unless somebody starts acting out. And just for an example, yesterday we had two organic farmers come, and we actually planted an organic garden on the property, which is the third year we've done it. And now when the kids come on Monday, they're going to weed the garden and pick the crops, and then hopefully take the stuff home. And then at the end, during the summer, we're going to have a barbecue too, using some of the stuff that we've grown here.
That sounds great.
Yeah, the kids love it. They really do.
Yeah.
They get quite excited about planting and watching what they've planted grow. And as I say, the common sense parenting does help the parents too.
Terrific. Terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, you know, Jean, I'm saying this to you now as the kind of regional voice in the group. Keep an eye out for, as you look at all these family support programs, for things that, you know, you think they can be very small and or big, you know, but things that are just worth, that might be worth sharing with other people to expand their expertise and give them ideas for how they can do their work. So.
Well, and on that note, I want to say that, you know, on Long Island, and I don't know if this is true in other parts of the state, it may well be true, but on Long Island, our family advocates gather together from the different agencies, from the different providers, about once a month, and it's a very natural vehicle to share ideas that are happening within our region. And what I've witnessed is that it actually seems to energize each other. Everybody's, you know, the ability to talk about issues that come up with families, solutions, techniques, you know, what are you talking about in your support groups, what kinds of events do you have, and also some of the interchangeability. Like I know in Nassau County North Shore and Family and Children's Association, you know, some of the parents will attend each other's support groups. So I think that that's a really helpful avenue of sharing ideas and spreading the wealth of you know, what works.
Yeah,
especially
no,
recently.
I think it's great. And hopefully with CTAC, we can even broaden those conversations a little bit so people can be talking to folks both from other parts of New York and even with family advocates from other parts of the country about the different ways that they're working, especially because I think programs are going to be finding themselves maybe working in some new areas, you know, with families referred from different systems than they have before, and having to think about, you know, different ways of doing business. But I think you're right. I think where those groups exist, they're really valuable to the advocates and their supervisors. So thanks for hosting that. So I'm going to move us along here, so we know that we need to make some modifications to the PEP training to both update it, add some, you know, new material, adjust some of the material that's there, not completely overhaul it, but keep what's good and update it. It's been a couple years since that's happened. And we would love to have your input in terms of, you know, some of you are supervisors, you have advocates coming to work for you, they've participated in the training, and what we want to know is, are you seeing areas in which we could do more work from a training perspective to give advocates the skills that they need to do their job? Any ideas that you have, any things that you see where you could use some help in that regard?
And I can tell you that one of the comments that I've heard happen more than once is for new family advocates who are coming on and taking the PEP training before they've actually started the job or right at the very beginning of the job, they have expressed the thought that, wow, it would be helpful to have this when we're a little bit more familiar with what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be too early to train somebody, right?
That's what I've heard.
Yeah, no, I think we've heard it too. Like, we get some new people, they don't even really know how to apply what they're learning in the training. So actually that's interesting, because one of the directions that we may be going in, and Susan can say some more about this, is you know, people are going to have to get credentialed faster in order to be able to bill Medicaid. So we're thinking about sort of a kind of startup training that would be like a minimum kind of training program that would be available online that you could take to get yourself started. And then after you'd been working a little while, you could do some other piece of your basic training. And then there would be continuing education, some required and some, you know, whatever you wanted to do in going forward. But it might be that that setup actually helps with the situation, the problem that you're describing. You know, people want to have an advocate that has some basic training, but it might be good to split it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I unmuted myself to just ask this question of Jean and the group in general. So if some of it is too much, what do you think we need to start with? What are the basic skills that an advocate needs to just start doing the work? So that's my question.
I definitely don't want to monopolize the answer on that, but the first thing that jumps out to me is that just the concept of parents as change agents of change. I think that is kind of a revolutionary concept for we who have the lived experience of, you know, trying to get help. To be trained in that role of helping other parents to recognize their role as agents of change. I think that is key.
Thanks, Jean. Any other comments, skills?
They need to know about the various systems that are out there. They may not have accessed all of those systems themselves as parents. There are a lot more systems out there than a parent might necessarily access for their own child.
Okay. Thanks, Yvonne.
Yeah, that's good. A couple of the other things we're hearing about, you can, you know, respond or add to. People are feeling as though the advocates need some help with how to respond, how to recognize a situation that might be unsafe with a family and how to respond to that, and also what their role is when a family has a crisis plan. So obviously it's not to write the crisis plan, but what are some potential roles that are appropriate for family advocates to play when a family has a crisis plan in place? Those are two things that we've heard people mention. So keep thinking about this. It's not your last chance to weigh in on this, but you know, as you work with the advocates and speak with the supervisors that you know, keep this in mind. So we'll be doing some work on that. I'm going to just say something quickly about this, but not spend too much time on it. You know, we have all different kinds of supervisors of family advocates. Some of them are clinical folks. Some of them are senior family advocates. Most of them have not had any specific training or in supervision, and they almost certainly haven't had any training around the unique issues of supervising a family peer support provider, because it's a tricky role. And the people who are performing that role have, you know, are going into situations where they're having to kind of sometimes swim upstream a little bit. So we're going to pay some attention to, in CTAC, to trying to provide some resources for supervisors, perhaps develop a training for supervisors of family advocates to support the work that they're doing. So if you guys have any feedback on what might be helpful in that regard, that would be great to hear that.
And that would be very helpful for me. You know, if LIFT is going to be able to, in the future, take on some parent advocates, maybe contract, you know, as you mentioned earlier, try to become a program of a larger organization or be contracted, that would be really helpful for me.
Okay, great. Yeah, it's sort of amazing that we think that just being around a long time makes you a supervisor, right? You know, but that's not just with family support. That's true otherwise, too. I mean, I think when we talk about supervision at CTAC, we're talking about that being a need across the board for that everybody's feeling. And, of course, when budgets are, you know, you don't bill for the supervisor's time, so it's really difficult for people to find the time to do good supervision, and that's part of the challenge. So, all right.
So I think that that idea, you know, of supervision fits in really nicely also because at least my understanding is that in Medicaid managed care that there'll be certain rules around who can supervise family peer advocates. So, you know, there may be people who are needing to supervise family peer advocates, like other family peer advocates, who don't have supervision experience, and having knowing and learning about how to supervise, I think, will be very important. And also for agencies like LIFT, who may not have family peer advocates as part of their staff, but may get contracted to be part of the supervision team for other family peer advocates.
Right. What we're going for, the gold standard here, I think, is that people have support and supervision from someone who has experience in the role. It may be that in their agency, their administrative supervision comes from someone that's not a senior family advocate, but we really recognize the value of people having that kind of direction, an opportunity for feedback and supervision from someone who understands the job. And it may be that that person can be that exists in a larger agency, or it may be that an agency needs to contract for that from somewhere else if they don't have a senior family advocate in their program. You know, Yvonne touched a little bit on this in her comment. One of the things we're hearing from people is that they would love to get some additional training in evidence-based parenting support models like common sense parenting. I'm wondering what you're currently using, and if there are any thoughts you've had about other kinds of parenting support approaches, evidence-based approaches that you've heard about that you think might be useful in your work with families.
Guess who? It's Eileen. I have what I call a practice-based evidence.
That's
so
right,
It's not officially listed, but it's the Beyond Consequences model with Heather Forbes, who has a parenting model for parenting kids with severe behaviors with a focus on children who've had trauma in their history, but it's not exclusively for trauma. And I've had very good results with that. I've run a group actually when we had the system of care, and I also use those principles in the adoption support group with the parents, and it's very effective.
Great.
It's available for families also on demand on the internet, where you can do like an online demand class, but I think there's a lot of value in doing it in a group setting, and I'm going to be hopefully moving forward offering that out of LIFT in addition to having it in our adoption support.
Terrific.
Yeah, we actually did the 4 Rs. This is Susan. Eileen and I did the 4 Rs over the summer, and Eileen incorporated a lot of the philosophy and some of the practice into some of the discussions that we had with those families, and those weren't families of children who were adopted, and they really, the parents had a very strong positive reaction and tried many of the suggestions, and they worked, you know, really well. So, you know, I'm very supportive of that particular training as well.
So for those of you on the phone who aren't familiar with the 4 Rs and the 2 S's, its full name is, Jerry can speak to this a little bit too, it's the 4 Rs and 2 S's for multiple family groups. And the idea is it's a group model where parents and kids come together and may spend some time apart during the session, but work together for an hour and a half or so on, you know, various, it's really designed for kids who have, you know, quote-unquote disruptive behavior disorders.
Right.
And it lasts for anywhere between 8 and 16 sessions, depending on how you structure the group. And Jerry, do you want to say anything else about that?
I just want to say it's for whoever's in the family, whoever the you know, the person, the family, the caregiver wants to bring to the family, to the group. It can be the grandmother, the aunt, the uncle. It could be a friend. And the 4 R's are relationships, respectful communication, responsibility. What did I leave out? Oh, respect. And the 2 S's are supports and stress. And based upon those 4 R's and 2 S's, there is a curriculum. Now, Susan and Eileen, the one that they did was the parent-partner version. Am I right, Susan and Eileen? Or did you do the regular one?
Yeah, we did the parent, was it a parent-partner version? Yeah, I think it was the parent version.
Okay.
But Eileen has done the clinical parent-partner version. Well.
Right, which is one that originally is with a family advocate, or it could be a social work intern, or either a therapist and a parent partner. And it's been very successful down through the years. And so I'm glad to hear that you were able to incorporate those 2. I would really like to see that. I'm definitely going to look at the Beyond Consequences. It sounds very interesting.
It's beyondconsequences.com. And also what I really enjoy about the 4 R's group is when the youth see other families having the same struggles and other parents setting the same boundaries, it was very effective. And as Susan mentioned, I did both. I did it part of a clinical team and then with Susan as a parent partner. And with the families that were committed, we saw some nice, you know, results, and they did also, children and the parents.
Great. That's great.
Terrific.
Fabulous. Thank you.
So keep this question in mind, like all of these questions. You know, we're looking at a number of different options, and, you know, at some point, hopefully we can, you know, choose a couple models that we might look to making available to people, you know, bring some trainers in or something like that to make them available to folks who haven't had the training yet. Yeah.
I was just going to say, I thought I heard Yvonne said that they were doing common sense parenting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Okay, very good.
Yep.
Great.
All right. Can you tell us a little bit about what, if any, contact you have had with managed care organizations, otherwise known as the plans, in your region?
We building department. We haven't, this is Yvonne, we haven't had any contact with that because we have a billing department in our building.
Right.
They do all of that, not that they're billing for our services yet anyway.
Right. So, Yvonne, are you involved? So there are a lot of programs like yours where the family support program exists within a larger agency, and I'm wondering, are you involved at all in those conversations? How is family support at the table when the organization as a whole is thinking about these various changes coming down the pike?
Through SPOA, we have CCSI and CCCT in our agency too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're advocates for the CCSI, CCCT program, as well as the advocates for what is now the Jewish Board program.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, we have therapists within the agency that will come and ask us a question, or say I've got a family that might, you know, do really well in your support group, and providing, you know, the kid meets the criteria according to our supervisor, we get families that come to our support group from other people in the agency.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not really involved in any decision-making in the agency, but we get people coming at us from all different ways.
And
well, I mean, that's good because
I'll just say that as the supervisor in the 3 programs, I attend weekly supervisory group at North Shore.
Okay.
So I am I will bring any concerns to the supervisors in general,
Right.
and that would include the associate executive director who's there. So we very much are, I think, have a clear line of communication.
Yes.
And it sounds like a lot of the different programs of the agency are aware that you're there and working collaboratively with you.
Yes,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that doesn't always happen. Sometimes the program is sort of like this little satellite that exists independent of the larger agency.
Oh, no, we're an integral part of the agency, really.
Do you do much work in partner, like where you really work side by side with some of the clinical folks in the different programs?
Oh, definitely. We go on home visits together. We sit and talk about the cases in team. We sometimes go into the CCCT team meeting to talk about cases, and that's every week. And then we have our own team meeting with Lee, and sometimes they'll come in and talk about, cases. Yes, we do collaborate very well with them.
Yeah. And this is a tricky question, and you can decline to answer it, but do you feel that you have the freedom to disagree?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and to help the families really speak up. Pardon me?
I said, look at how readily she said that.
Because that's one of the challenges of some of the embedded programs is that, it can be tricky sometimes, to be the kind of internal advocate.
The agency has a meeting once a month of all clinical staff, and we sit in on those meetings too and get trainings with clinical staff here.
Oh, so that's good, some side-by-side training too. That's great. Have you been able to do some training yourself in, say, how to partner differently with families or what families need from clinicians, things like that?
I would say, this is Lee, not specifically. We have presented to the staff on a periodic basis. The family advocates also have come. We have an internship program for graduate students who are, and they've come there and talked and partnered with them so that the newest graduates start the ground kind of running with an awareness of family advocates' role. But, and this, I'm in no way feeling obliged to plug North Shore, but I think what helps here is that North Shore as an organization very much believes in family work and believes in systems, so that it's kind of a good home, I think, in that regard. The theoretical underpinnings of the agency are ours as well, so it's a good marriage.
And we're also we also have the ISP program in the BOCES schools. And so the workers over in the schools will often contact us and say, we have a kid here and we feel the family needs an advocate, and we'll work, within the school.
Right. So it sounds like you're not short of referrals.
Absolutely not. No.
What's the CCT program?
It's BOA services.
Children's Clinical.
We're both, we use the anachronism so much that we're struggling for what it goes back to. But for children who need therapy but are not going, refusing to go, and so the staff can go into the home and provide therapy in the home for a period of time. The goal is to, again, have that child and the family be able to return to community resources outside of the home.
And you also have a psychiatrist that will go.
Yeah, we have a psychiatrist who's a part of that team as well.
Yeah.
If I can offer, the acronym is Clinical Care Coordination Team.
Okay. There you go. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. All right, so, thanks for sharing all of that. It's good to hear about what you're doing. So, we're working at CTAC with the managed care organizations, and one of the things we'll be doing is trying to help all of them gain a better understanding of the purpose and the intent and the way of operating with family support. And we're really encouraging you to reach out and establish relationships with the plans that are in your region. It really pays to make them familiar with what you're doing. And if you are an embedded program like at North Shore, it may be that the specific conversation around family support isn't always coming up, and it may be something that you want to explore with your leaders. How can you be sure that the plans are familiar with the work that you're doing? Because you may ultimately end up with referrals not just from within your agency, but from other places in the community, including from the plans. So I'm going to keep us moving because, yes.
Can I just say one other thing around this? I think for the smaller organizations, and with Eileen's permission, I'll include LIFT in this. It's kind of like they don't know what they don't know, and there are probably other family support programs within larger organizations in the same situation, because although in North Shore the program has a direct connection through Lee, who's supervising other programs, to the people who might talk to managed care programs. That's not always the case. But, looking at what might be helpful, it might be helpful to have a very basic either webinar or, webinar on how to go about doing that and what to expect in, reaching out to a managed care program. Who are the managed care programs? What are, a little bit about what their roles, and then helping the programs think through what it is, how to prepare for that kind of meeting, what almost like you would do, like we talk about in the PEP training, how to prepare a parent for, a call with a provider. It's kind of the same idea, how to prepare a family support organization to make that connection. So that's
exactly. Okay. All right. Thank you, Susan, and thank you, North Shore folks. I just want to leave these last two slides for future thoughts so that we can just wrap this call up on time. But be thinking about strategies that you can use to reach out to families. A lot of the programs right now are somewhat insular in that they receive families from a single referral source or from only programs the other programs that their agency offers. So, and someone on one of the other calls said, we want to be careful about how much outreach we do because we can't necessarily serve other people. We don't have the capacity. Theoretically, as we move into a situation where Medicaid can be billed, you may be able to expand your capacity. So be thinking about what your opportunities are to connect with families, and also what your opportunities are to connect with other providers that you may be able to partner with or that may be referral sources for your agency. And I think we've touched on a few of these things, but if there are particular things that you as a leader of a family support program would find helpful for you, and I think like the kind of thing Susan is talking about here where we may be able to put together some information on how you can reach out to the plans would be a good example of something like that. You can let us know about that as well, because the odds are good that if it's something that you would need, there are other people in the state who would find it helpful. And we can pay attention to those two kind of categories of people, the embedded programs in a larger agency and the more independent, smaller provider organizations. These are some of the things that MCTAC and CTAC can be helpful with. And generally speaking, the way that MCTAC and CTAC work is not to provide one-on-one technical assistance to an organization, but to try to do things that have broader access, webinars, regional trainings, and some learning communities. And the learning communities can be really valuable for you to consider joining. And sometimes they start with an in-person training, sometimes they start with a web-based training, but it puts, you know, several providers together into a group, and they can share their experience and their strategies around implementing whatever that new model or approach is. We're also, just so you know, taking a look at how we can more broadly encourage programs to adopt family-driven or family-centered practice. And this kind of gets to what Lee and Yvonne were talking about, that, you know, if an agency is you know, operating in this way, it's easier for family support to come in and do their job. It's also better for families. And our belief is that everyone can deepen their family-driven practice. It's not there's not an end point where you kind of get a seal of approval that you're family-driven. But just like trauma-informed practice, it's something that we can all continue to grow and learn from. So you'll see a lot of training related to that coming out of CTAC, and I think you'll find that helpful for your folks to participate in as well. And with that, I am going to pass the baton back to Jerry. He's going to tell you some other. Jerry, I can't pass the baton, so I'll move the slides for you.
Oh, okay.
I can't see the baton at the moment.
Okay, so anyway, well, we have upcoming the Children's Summit. I'm sure some of you may have heard about that, and that's going to be June 29th, Monday, June 29th in New York City. And then there's going to be a repeat of that in Albany on June 30th. And Ann is going to expound on that in a few minutes. There's also MCTAC Managed Care Readiness, Readiness Assessment Tool, the HCBS Provider Infrastructure Training. Then there's the Revenue Cycle Management and Utilization Management Trainings, Contracting Series. Then there's the MCTAC and CTAC Work with Plans that is upcoming. There's going to be several summer webinar series with FPSS focus, and then there are going to be some webinar series with residential focus. And in the fall, we're planning on having some regional leadership events. There will also be some learning collaborative opportunities and some family peer advocate advisory group stuff that is going to be happening as well. So please be on the lookout for these announcements when they come up, so you can definitely take part in these offerings. So this is a slide that I think that we all need to try to, you know, do and you know, embrace, and that's keep calm and be open-minded. I would also suggest that we stay positive, and also just remember that CTAC is here to assist and support you in this transitioning period, and we're going to do as much as we can to help you get through that process. Ann?
All right. So the summit is going to be a really wonderful event. Probably for you all, the closest is in Monday, June 29th in New York City at the Kimmel Center at NYU. It's a full-day event. We have some national speakers, including some folks from other states who have been through this transition process and are going to be able to share with us some of their experience and what's working well for them. And then a number of breakout sessions, many of which I think will be relevant for you and for your agencies. So I hope that you'll consider participating, and perhaps your agencies are already signed up. Each agency is able to bring 4 participants, and so for you, Yvonne, I don't know if your agency is sending people or not. If they are, you might. Going. You do have people going?
Yes.
That's terrific.
Great.
And hopefully you can connect with them about what they learned, and if you're not part of the team that's originally going and you're interested in going and it turns out we have space, you can let us know, because we may be able to add some people if there's room. And for you, Eileen, because you are your own program, you can bring 4 people to the summit as well. and I hope you'll join us. What you need to do in order to attend is first complete the Managed Care Readiness tool if you haven't already done so, or if your agency hasn't already done so. And there's a link to that tool here, and there's also a webinar online if you need help completing that tool. I know Lyft has already done it. I'm sure if North Shore is sending people, they've probably already done it as well. So I won't say too much more about that. Any questions, thoughts, ideas based on what we've talked about today?
Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, we're good.
You're welcome.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
We want to encourage you to visit the MCTAC and CTAC websites for recordings of the webinar meetings, different tools and resources and announcements of the upcoming offerings. And you can visit our website, which is www.ctacny.com for the CTAC website, and the Managed Care Technical Assistance Center is www.mctac.org. And we, again, encourage you to sign up for these listservs so you can be informed as well. And this is just a list of the upcoming. Well, we did you already, and then we're going to gear up to do the Hudson region at 12:30, and then the Western region on Wednesday and Friday. We're doing New York City. Again, we thank you for your participation, and we hope that this has been helpful for you guys. And here's our contact information, myself and Ann. Please feel free to contact us with any questions or concerns that you may have. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Oh, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
All righty.